Art fairs are back in full effect, so I'm overly excited to talk to you guys about who has my eye at the Armory Art Fair. Unfortunately, my plans to head to New York were interrupted, but thanks to something we can all do, which is look online, I was able to really source through and get obsessive on my computer looking through the art fair on Artsy. Some of the artists pulled my interest more than others. Now, if you pay close attention to this video, this could be the opportunity like it was for me to learn about new artists, new galleries. And I also want to send over a really big thanks to Bruce Silverstein Gallery, who sent a list of works before he showed it over to the public. Guys, I'm Moriah Alise, and as you guys know, we talk about the art world from all spectrums, and today we're talking about 5 artists that grabbed me up and pulled me in at the Armory Art Fair. This year, the Armory Show is back in full effect, and as the art newspaper said perfectly, it's exactly what we needed. Now, if you didn't know, it's the first major U.S. fair since and even though we're still battling this crazy disease all over the world, galleries were still able to show up and safely participate in the Armory Art Show. And as the newspaper also said perfectly, it set an intentional tone. So I'm excited to see how all of the other fairs are gonna pull up. Some of you guys have been asking me if I'm going to Basel, and I don't know. I really don't know. I'm leaning towards, I don't know. But let's go ahead and get into the 5 artists that have grabbed my attention. Now, after scrolling through artsy.com, which literally allows you to look at every piece at the art fair, man, it's really crazy how much access we have to all of this art from just sitting at home. Well, the first artist I wanted to share with you guys today was Oska Guthiel. Now, you guys have to remember, at the time I recorded this video, these pieces hadn't sold yet. And you have to also remember that I'm on my desktop. I'm scrolling through on my screen looking at these pieces. I'm not at the actual show. So something has to really catch my attention for me to click on it. What I want you guys to do is keep in mind, when you're buying art or looking at art online, sometimes the screen has absolutely no comparison to the exhibition view, or if you were in person. But Guthiel really caught me. Like, I really was drawn to his work. And when I went to his website to look at his other work, outside of the works that were showing in Armory, I was blown away. I was then able to see the scale of the work as a huge part of it pulling me in. Now, this piece in particular had my attention first because of the color palette, but more importantly, the ambiguity and the androgyny and the characters within the painting. It was also really pulling because what a familiar moment, sitting on the bed, mattress only, with the possibility of the sheets being washed, chilling with the remote in your hand, watching TV, out. And outside of his skill and his cultural key points, there's such a familiar story there, right? So I really encourage you guys to take a moment and look at Oska Guthiel as an artist, read his bio, read about him, and get into his work because I like the work. Before we talk about money in the market and all that other stuff, more importantly than anything is the work. Now, the second artist that I want to share with you guys is Ambrose, and oh my God. I thought it was my first time actually being introduced to her as an artist, but then I realized I follow her on Instagram. But I realized her content does not pop up as I'm scrolling through Instagram, and it annoys me at Instagram's algorithm. But I love when this happens because when I'm unintentionally drawn to an artist at different parts of my life, it allows me to know how much I really love the work. And honestly, the way that I fell in love with this piece inspired me to really take more chances on the type of work that I'm attracted to. And I absolutely love when artists do that for me, when they give me the sensibility of growing and expanding my practice, when they take risk in ways that allow me and you to be vulnerable with the relationship you have with art. Now, this piece is titled Shadow Man, and it was executed in 2020. It's made of sequin found clothing overlain with hand-dyed silk organza, and it was presented by Friedman Gallery in the Armory, of course, the Armory Art Fair. Now, what's really interesting to me is how she places and sews the fabrics together using the colors and the fabrics that she's chosen. I really try to have an understanding for process, and I wonder how planned and purposeful her choices were. We can really easily notice the shadow behind the main figure, which leads to the title, I would assume, The Shadow Man. Works like these that have this very strong sense of figurative work that allows the figure to also be abstract, I fall in love with those type of pieces. Now, I also spent time on her website and reading about her, and I realized she's self-taught. Let me tell you guys, I love self-taught artists because they haven't been taught so many rules and skills and boxes that they lose the ability to be creative. Now, what I'm not saying is that all trained or classically trained artists are not creative, because if you have good teachers or good professors, they'll teach you to expand your creativity. But what I'm saying is self-taught artists have this let me figure it out umph to them, this freedom that allows them to explore differently than self-taught artists. And that's not the only thing to her. I encourage you guys to go over to her website and read more about her and take a look at her work. She went to Yale, she's an art teacher, and I absolutely fell in love with her work. The third artist I want to share with you guys is Bill Cunningham. And again, before I even go into Bill Cunningham, I really want to thank the Bruce Silverstein Gallery for sending the works over to me before presenting them to the Armory Art Fair. And shout out to this YouTube channel and y'all sliding in my DMs to give me previews. Shout out to those of you guys sending your magazines and your work, etc. I'll be sure to feature them. I also want to take this moment to mention a couple of pieces that we have available for you guys to collect through Alise Art Group by Erica Alonso. Now, the one that I'm showing you guys right now, It's an Adventure, is my favorite. I'm gonna tell you guys about the first visit to Erica's studio. I would say it was spiritual, and we spent a great amount of time sitting and talking, sitting on the floor in front of this specific piece. And I remember really clearly, like any other piece that I'm really drawn to, that it really, really pulled me in. Her ability to effortlessly create worlds and depth within these worlds, it evoked a sort of exploration within myself. And when you're engaging with her work, you start to recognize the story she's telling you. And you start to notice that this is an actual world that she's created, with characters in serious moments and anxious moments, calm moments and humorous moments. And you really begin to understand that her work is about the spontaneity of emotion. If you guys are interested in this piece in particular, go ahead and email me directly at moriahalise@aliseartgroup.com, or DM me on Instagram at Moriah Alise, and that's Moriah Alise with 2 E's at the end. All right, guys, if you want to see more of her work, same thing. Send me an email, shoot me a DM, and I'll share more of her work with you guys. Now back to the Armory Art Show. The fourth artist and next up is Jon Key. Some of you guys should know who Jon Key is. I'm really familiar with his work. If I'm not mistaken, I've talked about Jon Key on this channel before. I'm pretty sure I've absolutely spoken about Jon Key on this channel before. I remember him specifically, and I watch his work. He's from Sealy, Alabama, and he identifies himself as a queer man from Sealy, Alabama. And I have this attraction, I don't think to Alabama, but just to the South in general. And it made me wonder, what proximity did he have to art as he was growing up? And I only say myself, being from a small town in Texas, I didn't have any introduction to visual art, not public visual art, not museums, not galleries, until I went to college. So I really wonder what his connection was. And anyway, I was connected with him in that way without actually being connected. I have a really high interest in his practice and in his career. He's a director of an organization called Codify Art, which is written to be a multidisciplinary collective dedicated to creatives producing and supporting and showcasing, run by artists of color, particularly women, queer, and trans people. His work is currently being presented at the Armory Show by Steve Turner Gallery, and a gallery that's really new to me. A gallery nonetheless that I have a major attraction to. Matter of fact, I believe an artist that I work closely with, Lamont French, will be a really, really great fit for this gallery. If you guys aren't familiar with Lamont French, check out the video on the card above. And if you want to take it a little bit further, check out our interview. Same thing goes. If you guys have inquiries about French, go ahead and send me an email. If you've been watching this channel, you know Lamont and I did an exhibition called Fuego back in June, and the show did incredibly, incredibly well. Everyone loved the work so much that we sold that show out in 24 hours. What a pivotal moment in our career. So if you were one of those people that purchased the painting from Fuego. We just really, really, really want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. Now back to Jon Key. The last thing, because the way that he experiments with form and movement, repetition and pattern, I feel like it keeps me in the space that he's in. I'm truly, truly a fan of his work. Last but certainly not least, Andrea Joyheimer. And this has nothing to do with anything, but I've always been attracted to the name Joyce. So when I started looking at her work, I was obsessed. And honestly, it starts to be a little bit stressful how many artists I love. Like, oh my God, when I dive into my collection and we really start collecting, it's gonna stress me out because I'm not gonna know who to turn to first. And if you're a collector and you're serious about it, you know what I'm feeling. So the name of this piece is At My Grandmother's Cabin. Read it, it's really long. Like, just go ahead and read the title because it's really long and I can't remember it. Nonetheless, it was executed in 2021, and her work really reminds me of my childhood in a few different ways. It's because she tells the full story with all of the characters involved. Her work allows for so many appreciative moments. It allows your eyes to move and your thoughts to wander. And she has a way of getting you a starting point and telling the story from start to finish. It's not a concept that I'm typically drawn to in art, but her execution and her style is really captivating to me. But guys, lately I've been going to a lot of shows, and I'm about to head to one now for an artist. Her name is Bria Lauren, and I remember I first met her at my friend Ryan Williams' Art's house. Art popping up now. Anyway, I met her at Ryan's grandmother's house, and I remember her aura more than anything stayed with me. And her career here in Houston is doing really well. So I'm about to go to her show, and I'll show right now. One more thing, I'm gonna do the Patreon a little bit sooner than I expected, so you guys keep a lookout for that. But other than that, y'all stay safe in these streets. You guys already know. Subscribe if you vibe, click that thumbs up, go ahead and put the alert on me, and I will talk to you guys later. I'm out.